time for Damn It, Jim, the podcast. I'm Dana Smith, and I'm joined by Dan Calzaretta.
Hey, Dana, how you doing?
Pretty darn good. How about yourself?
Doing great.
Tonight, we have a second episode that was aired, Charlie X. This is, I remember when it first came out, I didn't like it when I first saw it as a kid. Maybe because the character of Charlie was being constantly reprimanded. That's how.
That's true.
I felt I was. Yeah.
Is that something you felt a lot, Dana?
Sometimes managed to get in trouble. So unfortunately or fortunately, I wasn't able to make people vanish. One thing I wanted to point out, this was written by DC Fontana. DC's actually a female writer who worked with Gene Roddenberry on another show that he did and became kind of one of the central figures in Star Trek writing. And this, I believe, was the first episode that she got the nod for teleplay.
Yeah, I think you're right. Wait, her name is Dorothy, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's Dorothy, but she used a couple of different male names to allow her work to get published. Again, there's that 1960s problem of women not getting the same representation as men. She died about 3 years ago. I think it was 2019.
Yeah, she lived a long life, didn't she, in her 80s or something?
Yeah, and she did a lot of writing for television and movies. But anyway, she was instrumental, I think, in creating the Star Trek that we know and love. So Charlie X, there's a ship brings Charlie to the Enterprise, and the Captain Ramart brings Charlie aboard as him and his navigator, and they talk about how great Charlie is and how wonderful he is, and then they're eager to get off the ship.
Yeah, they really wanted to get out of there, didn't they?
Yeah, and they refused Kirk's offer for Sorry and Brandy.
We have a large supply of entertainment tapes, gentlemen.
No, we've a tight schedule to make, Captain. Just 20 of us. We're making out fine.
This must be a space first. This transport ship that doesn't need anything?
Nothing.
Not even Sorry and Brandy?
We're fine, thank you. Pleasant journey, Captain.
Thank you.
I was curious what the entertainment tapes were.
I got a feeling they may have included some green creatures doing some kind of dance moves. I don't know for sure. Yeah. But like you said, what were on those entertainment tapes?
Yeah, that's where the real story is, I think, for this. But
well, if you think about the last episode, The Man Trap, we find out that there is such a thing as a pleasure planet, which is a little odd. And I think in some of the upcoming episodes, they reference that again, where they actually go to one of these like recreation planets. It brings up the question, what did people in the 23rd century do for fun? I mean, they're on this gigantic ship floating around in space. What do they do for fun?
Well, we'll see was it the recreation deck?
That's true. Yeah.
So they worked out and threw each other around and stuff.
They did. Yeah.
Did tumbling.
Apparently.
So. And then they drank Sorry and Brandy and watched tapes. Stared out at the stars outside their windows. So.
Did they have windows?
Not every cabin.
Okay, but, so it's kind of like a cruise ship.
Yeah, like the cruise ship I was on once. Yeah. So. Did
you have a window?
Yeah, you could say that. It was like something you could kind of see out of.
Maybe that was just like a crack in the hull. What was this? Was this like a cheap cruise line you went on?
We did have if I remember right, like a portal that was maybe like 2 feet by 2 feet.
Was there water coming in?
No, we were above the water line.
Sorry, go on.
So Charlie gets left on the ship. And I should point out that Charlie is played by Robert Walker Jr., who is 26 years old, playing 17, the sole survivor of a transport crash 15 years earlier. Walker Jr. is an actor with quite a big acting pedigree. He's the son of Robert Walker and Jennifer Jones. Their son grew up to be Robert Walker Jr., and he was in quite a lot of TV shows and movies, including The War Wagon with John Wayne. He was also in the movie Easy Rider. It's important to note that the cast in here really liked working with Robert Walker Jr. They thought that he was stayed focused and was in character quite a bit. He was a method actor, and I was reading something about our friend Yeoman Rand,
right?
Who said that he stayed in character and stayed away from everybody else on the set.
I wonder if when they were in like the cafeteria, during breaks, did he give him that look with the eyes, so where he kind of tips his head down and the eyes roll back in his head? That was a little freaky, actually. Shatner, you took my hamburger.
Yeah. So the whole thing is, and we've alluded to this, is that Charlie's got a bit of a power problem. Does not like being told what to do or being hurt.
Like every teenager everywhere throughout history and into the future.
We learn right away that he's not familiar with people. Yeoman Rand comes in and he sees her and he is just gobsmacked.
That's one way to put it.
He can barely talk. You can just see his mouth hanging open. And Kirk tells her to take him to his room. And he says, is this a girl? And Kirk says, that is a girl. But it's obviously that Charlie has taken an instant liking to Yeoman Rand.
Yeah, he is beyond affected. Maybe he's hoping she'll be in some of these recreation tapes or something. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to guess, really, or add to Star Trek canon that doesn't exist. Those hormones, man, they are coursing.
Every time he sees her, his eyes get big, his mouth hangs open, he can't stop staring at her. Charlie keeps trying to get closer and closer to Yeoman Rand, and he sees two crewmen who are helping one another out, and one guy says to the other, I'll see you later, or something, and he kind of like reaches back and smacks his buddy on the backside. Charlie witnesses that, and then next time he's talking to Yeoman Rand, he tries that.
You got a deal, friend.
Charlie, you just don't go around slapping girls on the... It's okay, but just don't do it again. Why don't you tell Captain Kirk or Dr. McCoy what you did, and they'll explain it to you, okay?
Totally throws them under the bus. Or do they have buses in the 23rd century? Or throws them under the
shuttlecraft. Yeah.
The shuttlecraft, thank you. That's awesome.
Charlie catches up with Kirk, says, I've got a question for you. And, well, I was talking to Janice, and says, I did this. And he kind of smacks Kirk on the hip, and Kirk goes, oh, that's not something you normally do. And he says, well, isn't that what friends do? Kirk responds with,
well, there's no right way to hit a woman.
What's the implication there? Is it, there's several wrong ways to hit a woman? It's
yeah, it didn't age very well. But the interesting part about that scene for me too was just how awkward Kirk was. Normally he's very decisive and I'm just going to go punch something or shoot something. He couldn't deal with this 17-year-old. These first two episodes have this interesting kind of sexual tension. First one, it was Darnell. He sees the woman as this blonde who's giving him kind of the flirty eyes and walking.
She worked on a pleasure planet. That's
worked on the pleasure planet. Thank you. Well, and even Rand in that first one had some scenes that were, I would say kind of sexual. And then in this one, Charlie not only kind of slapping her, but just like you said, all over her in this episode.
We go to the bridge, and McCoy and Spock are having a little bit of a debate about Thasians, people of legend from the planet that Charlie was found on. Kirk kind of says to McCoy, you've got to take Charlie and teach him some basic manners and facts and stuff. And McCoy tries to pass that back on Kirk.
I'd like you to give him the necessary medical orientation on the problems of adolescence.
Don't you think it'd be better for a strong father image like you? He already looks up to you.
The job is yours, Bo, and flattery will get you nowhere.
Charlie and Kirk form a bond, as it were.
Yeah, they do. And he sees him as a father figure.
Yeah, which apparently nobody on the Antares could be for him. So then we get to see the recreation room. Yeoman Rand's in there playing cards. Spock has I believe it's called the Vulcan lute, which is kind of like a little harp that he can play. And then Uhura starts singing. And she's kind of, once again, as similar to the last episode, she was kind of teasing Spock.
Oh, on the Starship Enterprise, there's someone who's in Satan's guise. Whose devil ears and devil eyes could rip your heart from you.
Charlie comes in. He wants to show Yeoman Rand some card tricks, and then he does card tricks for Yeoman Rand. And then we go back to the bridge, and there's also a continuity issue. Kirk changes uniforms or changes his top, comes to the bridge, and the captain of the Antares is trying to reach Captain Kirk.
Yeah, and wasn't that about the same time that they get a message on the bridge, and it's the cook calling the captain? Is that right during that?
Yeah, because, that's right. When right before Charlie caught up with Kirk, he was talking to the cook, but he said,
On Earth today, it's Thanksgiving. If the crew has to eat synthetic meatloaf, I want it to look like turkey.
some...
Yeah, once again, predicting the future of having one type of meat look and taste like another type, or maybe a non-meat item look and taste like meat.
Remember that during the original series, they had the replicators,
Right.
which they got their food from quite often. And apparently wasn't working in this episode.
And then the cook calls and says, I put the meatloaf in the ovens and they're turkeys, real turkeys.
And I read that was Gene Roddenberry who was doing the voice of the cook.
And I guess it was the only time he appeared in any of the episodes.
Last week you brought up some trivia points, so there's a big trivia one. What character did Gene Roddenberry play on the original series?
And what was he cooking? So would the answer be he's playing the chef? Yes, that we know. But was he cooking meatloaf, turkeys, or meatloaf that was supposed to look like turkeys, or real turkeys? What's the right answer there?
Was it turkey loaf? So anyway, at this point, Charlie's getting to be dangerous. There's another encounter with Yeoman Rand, and this time she's got a friend.
Yes, she does. Tina Lawton. She's a yeoman. Interestingly,
she's a yeoman third class.
Thank you. Yeoman third class. Rand introduces her to Charlie as someone your own age. I mean, they've got 17-year-olds on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's funny because that's what I thought as well. But Charlie kind of just blows her off. He goes, I don't want to talk to her. I want to talk to you.
And she and Yeoman Lawton, third class Yeoman Lawton, says,
Excuse me, I must be wanted somewhere.
And then just storms off. Like, are you kidding me? Yep, perfect 17-year-old, both of those.
That's when Charlie just starts gushing.
I see you. I feel like I'm hungry. All over. Hungry. Do you know how that feels?
She was not impressed.
And maybe that's one of these themes of the show is adolescence. You know, that the idea that Charlie, he's 17, he's been isolated. He has no social skills, like many teenagers, doesn't know how to express himself, like many teenagers. He's overrun with all these hormones, like all teenagers. He is just trying to kind of navigate this brand new experience. And I don't know if the show is like, hey, I'm going to write this show that's going to explain adolescence. So we've got the science fiction show, and maybe people can relate to it, maybe they can't. But everyone can relate to what it is to be a teenager and to go through all that stuff. So maybe this is a way that Star Trek is able to take a common human experience, bring it into a show that's about the future, and yet make the viewer or establish for the viewer this connection over centuries. Or maybe it was just like, this sounds like a good thing. We got this kid who can tip his head down and make people disappear and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Who knows? Well, what does the X mean? You know, I mean, I thought about that after watching the episode again. Why that title, Charlie X? We know his last name.
X seems a little bit more dangerous
than just the show called Charlie Evans. Be like, well, is that...
Yeah,
is that Bob Evans? Is that what is that? Is it about sausage? Is he a sausage maker in the future? It was all turkey meatloaf in the future, so they couldn't have made. Who knows?
Kirk has to have another talk with Charlie. Charlie's saying, "Well, what do I do? How do I express myself to her?" And Kirk says, "You go slow. You be gentle."
Which is so unlike Kirk in every aspect of his life.
And that's just it. And he says, "Don't press." Does Kirk ever follow his own advice?
Good point. That is a great point. I mean, especially near the end of the show, he's just ready to punch this 17-year-old kid. You know, and soon there's going to be this, the Federation Child Protective Service ship that's going to pull up, and they're going to pull Kirk off, and
he'd be like, "I didn't want to be a father." You know. So,
Wow.
So a way of helping Charlie get his energies out, Kirk takes him to the recreation deck. We see a couple guys hitting each other with these paddling sticks or something, and then women doing
cartwheels.
Yes, thank you.
Didn't you find that bizarre? They were in these full body red leotards with still the Enterprise symbol on them, and they're flipping toward the camera with these bizarre smiles on their faces. It just was the weirdest transition into that scene.
It was. And then we see Kirk is demonstrating how to take a fall. And Kirk is wearing bright red tights and no shirt. He tries to get Charlie to fall correctly. Charlie struggles with that a little bit. And he says, well, I thought you were going to teach me how to fight. And he goes, well, first, before you fight, you got to learn how to fall. He picks on a guy there that's working out, Sam, who's doing some kind of wall routine I've never seen before.
I saw that.
Since.
It was these two levers sticking out of the wall, and he's
he's doing pulling him. I mean, he's pulling him like 4 inches. You know, it's just like, kind of like, what kind of exercise is that? A frustrating one, probably. So he says, Sam, come here. Let me show you how to do this. He goes, first Sam's going to throw me. And so he does. And then he says, now I'm going to throw Sam. And they do this move and Kirk throws him. And so he says, come on, Charlie, now you do this. And you knock me down. You throw me. And so Charlie's trying and Kirk finally like knocks him down. And Sam's sitting over in the corner laughing. Charlie ducks his head a little bit, rolls his eyes back, and poof, Sam is gone.
Sam is gone. You know, the funny thing is Sam was like sitting in the corner, like you said, but he's got this towel on his shoulders, like he's kind of, drying off. And Sam disappears, but the towel stays behind. Why didn't the towel go with him? He was holding the towel.
Kirk calls for security, and 2 security guards run in, and Charlie says, I'm not going to let them hurt me. And when they advance towards him, he kind of like leans into him a little bit, and they both fall down. And one of the security guards pulls his phaser, and Charlie ducks his head and rolls his eyes, and the phaser disappears.
And, going back to when those 2 guys come in, I don't know what directions they were given. Maybe they were the guys in the kitchen, at where they were the lot where they were filming, and they just, oh God, we need some security guys, and get the 2 guys from the kitchen. They'll do it. First off, they've got different color pants on. One's really dark black. The other was not quite the same. And they walk in with the strangest, most awkward stride into the room, and they realize, we got to stand at attention because here's the captain. It was just bizarre. I thought it was just really, really bizarre. They take him off to his room.
Shortly afterwards, Charlie goes to Yeoman Rand's quarters.
And just walks in.
Yep, doesn't knock, doesn't call in advance. Brings her a flower.
He did bring her a flower. It was a pink flower, which he says is her favorite color.
I wonder if he got that from the botany lab where Sulu was. So.
It didn't look like a hand, but can you imagine if that was it? And like the hand was moving and kind of going toward Yeoman Rand and trying to grab her face or something. Yeah, that would have been.
And he tells her he loves her.
And can we talk about the negligee that she's in?
She's in a pink nightgown, which is kind of like borrowed from the Roman Empire. Probably just shooting, Demetrius and the gladiators right down the road and, a few years before and said, hey, look, we got this robe here, this Roman robe. Let's just dye it pink and
toss it on her. And once again, and I think this was a style of the time in the 60s, but the actual bras that they were wearing during this show.
Be careful.
I know. I mean, they were of a particular style. And if you look at commercials from that time, advertisements from that time, they were definitely of a particular style. I would imagine an uncomfortable style.
I can only agree with you.
With no actual evidence on my part, it just looks like it wouldn't be comfortable. But who knows? I don't know.
Shaped like missiles.
Missiles, yeah. Or torpedo tubes. I don't know. Phasers.
Oh, so this could be the last show that we do. We were doing so well. Kirk and Spock come running into the room. Charlie knocks them down, and then he advances back on Yeoman Rand. And when he tries, I think he just tries to grab her. She slaps him. And he did not take well to that.
Apparently there was a right way to hit a woman.
And he figured it out. Yeah.
Because he zapped her into some alternate reality or somewhere.
She went where Sam went. Then Charlie is left to his own devices, walking through the ship.
Just walking around.
Yeah.
Causing mayhem, I might add.
Makes a young woman turn into an old woman.
And he turns yeoman third class Tina Lawton into a lizard third class.
Iguana or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Iguana third class.
And then he passes by a room where people are laughing and just having a good time.
Yeah, and you see them in shadow. He says, "Don't laugh at me." And they freeze, the shadows freeze, and then you hear this muffled, like, moaning, and this woman comes around the corner, and she has no face. That was freaky. I thought that was really, really freaky.
Yeah, and it's a little bit scary. You think about it. And she was sounding like she was muffled. And then we go back to the bridge, and Kirk has decided that maybe Charlie's taken on too much. So the idea is that they're going to overload him with all the activity on the ship.
But the way they did it, and they just start, like, randomly pressing things and flipping switches, and again, kind of awkward. McCoy gives this look back to Jim, like, I don't have any idea what I'm doing here. Yeah. All I know is that I'm pressing a bunch of these colored buttons and these lights.
I was going to say, when does the ship doctor know which buttons to flip on the bridge?
I mean, you flip the wrong button, and all of a sudden it says, self-destruct in 10 seconds. And,
yeah.
Well, that can't turn that one off.
Or I just shut the warp drives down, and, we're going to have a meltdown on the ship.
Or the ovens have been turned off, and the turkeys are still raw. And people are going to get sick.
It would have been great if he stopped and said, "Is this the one for the ovens? I don't want to hit that one."
Because I want that turkey. It's real turkey. I haven't had real turkey in decades.
There's not a lot of special effects in this show until they say a ship is coming near and they can't read the signature of it or something. And then all of a sudden this green face that looks like it's underwater suddenly appears on the bridge.
Yeah, like this floating green thing. Yeah.
Which we have to assume is a Thasian. And so then the green face says, "We've returned everything to normal on your ship." And Yeoman Rand appears in her nightgown on the bridge.
Yeah. So, okay, I got a problem with this. Dana. Yeoman Rand shows up. Well, where the heck is Sam? How come he doesn't just show up on the bridge?
He's back picking up his towel.
Okay, he had to get his towel. All right, I can see that.
The face says, Charlie needs to come back home with us. We tried to raise him best we could, essentially. And Charlie starts pleading to stay.
Oh, I won't do it again. Please, I'll be good. I won't ever do it again. I'm sorry about the Antares. I'm sorry! I want to go with you. Help me.
Kirk is affected by Charlie's pleas.
Mm-hmm.
He actually makes a pitch for Charlie to stay on the ship.
The boy belongs with his own kind.
That will be impossible.
With training, we can teach him to live in our society. If he can be taught not to use his power.
He will use it. Always. And he would destroy you and your kind.
Thankfully, Kirk was listening. He kind of steps back, and then Charlie says,
"Don't let them take me. I can't even touch them.
They can't feel.
Not like you. They don't love. I want to stay, 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 stay."
I thought this scene actually was really, really well done. The way that the actor who's playing Charlie conveys this emptiness, this loneliness.
Yeah, but it's so true. We do need affection. We do need to have friends and family around us.
Yeah, and the way that he made that plea to the crew was pretty convincing, I thought, and pretty emotional, really. Especially when you compare it to last week's episode, when they were like, let's just kill this thing.
It's ugly and it's sucking salt out of us. Yeah.
Right.
And here Charlie can destroy the whole ship with his mind.
But, let's give him another chance.
Yeah. He can wipe out your whole civilization. Yeah, but he's inside. He's a nice kid.
He's a good kid. Yeah, great last scene, I thought. But, it also brought up then a couple of questions for me. When Charlie was stranded on this planet, the Thasians gave him these powers so he could survive somehow. Why didn't the Thasians just take the powers away from him? If they could give him the powers, why couldn't they take them away?
Another thing to think about is when he's found on the planet, the Thasians are so powerful. Why couldn't they just hide him?
Yeah.
some
Yeah,
way?
exactly.
Or-
Why didn't they stop the Antares from rescuing him in the first? Were they just like out? They left a sign, gone fishing. I mean, where were they? They're these omnipotent beings. How could they, one, not know that the Antares was there, and two, why couldn't they just stop the Antares from rescuing him in the first place? Yeah, exactly. That's a great point.
A heated game of gin rummy, and they just didn't hear the doorbell. Charlie answered the door, and there you go.
Maybe they were on the Thasian version of the Pleasure Planet. Which what would that have been? They're floating green heads, and he says something like, "I took this form centuries ago."
I have taken my form centuries ago, so that I may communicate with you.
The way that head looked, I would think that their Pleasure Planet would be like a lava lamp with this just weird gel kind of wiggling around, and the green head would just get in there for a while, and they're like, "Yeah, this is good." Oh crap, we left Charlie by himself. We better get home.
Did you leave the door open?
Wow.
The dead crewman count.
Yeah, so I do have a question about that. So the Thasians say everything has been restored as it was before, right?
Yes.
And no one on the Enterprise is dead. In fact, we see Yeoman Rand come back, so we can assume that everyone on the Enterprise has been restored. The iguana is now Yeoman Third Class Tina Lawton. The faceless woman probably has a face. The old lady turns back into the young person. Everyone who's frozen gets unfrozen. Sam is back in the locker room sweating away, just waiting for Kirk to come down there and do some more throws. But what about the Antares?
He said we arrived too late to help the other ship.
So I don't think we can actually count the 20 because they're not on the Enterprise.
That's what I was thinking.
No one on the Enterprise dies in this episode. 0.
True.
So we have a tally of still, 4?
4.
So not bad. I mean, the average is 2 over 2 episodes, so that's not too bad.
A few more things I noticed. The first time I think we see Kirk shirtless, and I'm hoping it's the last time we see him in red tights. It's, Yeoman Rand's nightgown was a character unto itself.
It was.
Spock is forced to recite poetry.
There's a tiger burning bright in the forest of the night. Saturn rings around my head down a road that's Martian red. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary.
The Raven and William Blake's Tiger.
Yeah.
Uhura sings to Spock. She's singing to the crew that's in the recreation deck, but she's coming around singing to Spock. So we brought this up last week. Is she flirting with Spock? And once again, J.J. Abrams, if you're out there listening, we know you are.
Oh, I didn't tell you. He sent us an email. Did I tell you this?
You did not. I think that would be something you should tell me.
Yeah. Well, the email was, I'm not jjabrams@gmail.com. So I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't him.
It seems to me like if I was trying to fool people, that's how I would name myself. Yeah. So.
Yeah. We're still waiting to hear though. JJ, send us an email. So to wrap up, this was an interesting episode. I liked it. I mean, I thought there were some parts in it that, pulled me out of the experience a little bit. Some of the awkward things that we've already talked about. But the ending I thought was pretty powerful.
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of it when I saw it when I was younger. Probably because no crewman died or anything. But it is a good show. And there's actually, from Robert Walker Jr., there's actually really good acting. I think that the interactions with Yeoman Rand seem very true to me. We were saying, just a teenager not knowing what to do with all these feelings he's got going through a system right at that time. It's a good show. Again, I think, as I get older, where people are not killed off in droves, it's more appealing to me.
Well, next week, it is probably one of the strongest episodes, I would think, in the first season, where no man has gone before. That will be pretty exciting to watch and to talk about. Dana, hey, this has been a blast. We've got 2 in the books.
77 to go.
And countless dead crewmen from the Enterprise.
I think Kirk said there was 420.
428.
They're already down 4. So we're down to 424. I want to see what the total is when we get to episode 79.
Well, so not to belabor this point, but do you think it should have been then 432 and 4 are dead? Or it was 428. Wow. It was 428. 4 died. They were down to 424. So they're at 424 now. Or There was 428, 4 got killed, it was 424, and they got replenished somehow. Well, maybe this is where this 17-year-old, they're like, yeah, 3 people died, let's get some 17-year-olds. This yeoman third class, Tina Lawton, 17, on the Enterprise. Yeah. All right, Dana, this was a lot of fun.
As always, Dan, I've enjoyed this. I'm really enjoying going through the process of watching the shows again and watching them in so much detail. I did want to point out we got some comments, so don't forget that you can email us. Dan, what's that email address?
It is dammitjimpodcast@gmail.com.
And we also have a Facebook page now. Not spelled the same because Facebook has rules. DMNIT, Jim, the podcast on Facebook. A couple of the comments I wanted to bring out. They liked what we were doing, thought we were making old-time television shows interesting.
Did anyone offer to pay us to stop?
No, which I was really surprised.
I was shocked. So, all right, Dana, a lot of fun. I will see you next week.
Live long and prosper.
Thanks again for listening. We'd love to hear your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. You can email us at dammitjimthepodcast@gmail.com or join the discussion on Facebook at dammitjimthepodcast. Make sure to tune in next week for the episode where no man has gone before. For Dan and Dana, have a great weekend.